Hello, story lovers, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a classic tale that teaches us about courage, taking chances, and how a little bit of magic can change everything. This is the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, in a small weathered cottage, lived a young boy named Jack and his mother. They were very poor, and their most valuable possession was their one and only cow, Milky White. One morning, Jack's mother sighed, her face etched with worry. "Jack," she said, "we have no money left for food. You must take Milky White to the market and sell her for the best price you can get, Jack." It was sad to part with their gentle cow, but he knew they had no choice. He set off on the dusty road to the market, leading Milky White by a rope. Along the way, he met a peculiar-looking old man with a twinkle in his eye. The man stopped and pointed at the cow. "That's a fine animal, young lad. Where are you headed?" "To the market, sir." "To sell her," Jack replied. The old man grinned. "I have a deal for you that's far better than any money you'll get at the market." He opened his hand to reveal 5 strange-looking beans. "These are magic beans," he whispered. "Trade me your cow for these, and they will bring you a fortune beyond your wildest dreams." Jack was fascinated. Magic beans. A fortune. It sounded much more exciting than a few gold coins. Without a second thought, he made the trade. He handed over Milky White's rope and clutched the beans tightly in his hand, running all the way home to show his mother. When he burst through the door and proudly presented the beans, his mother's face fell. "You did what?" she cried in disbelief. "You traded our only cow for a handful of worthless beans, you foolish boy." In her anger, she snatched the beans from his hand and threw them out the window into the garden. That night, Jack went to bed hungry and heartbroken, believing he had ruined everything. But when Jack woke the next morning, he noticed a strange shadow filling his room. He rushed to the window and gasped. Overnight, where his mother had thrown the beans, a colossal beanstalk had grown. It was so thick and tall that it stretched high into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. It was a ladder to a new world. Forgetting his hunger and his mother's anger, Jack felt a surge of excitement. This must be the magic the old man spoke of. Without hesitating, he ran outside and began to climb the giant beanstalk. He climbed higher and higher, past the birds, and into the fluffy white clouds. When he finally reached the top, he found himself in a strange and enormous land. A long straight road led to a massive castle in the distance. Curious and brave, Jack walked towards it. The castle was so huge that the front door was like a mountain. He managed to squeeze under it and found himself in a gigantic kitchen. There a giantess was busily preparing a meal. She spotted tiny Jack and surprisingly wasn't angry. "Goodness me, a little human," she exclaimed. "You'd best hide. My husband, the giant, will be home soon, and he loves to eat little boys for breakfast." She quickly hid Jack inside a copper pot just as the ground began to shake. Thump, thump. The giant stomped into the room, his voice booming like thunder. "Fee, fee, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive, or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said his wife, trying to distract him. "You're just smelling the stew I made for your dinner." The giant grumbled, but sat down to eat. After his meal, he called for his treasures. First, he brought out a bag of gold coins and counted them until he fell asleep, snoring loudly. Seeing his chance, Jack tiptoed out of the pot, snatched the bag of gold, and scurried back to the beanstalk. He climbed down as fast as he could and gave the gold to his mother. They were overjoyed. Their money troubles were over. But Jack was adventurous. A few weeks later, he climbed the beanstalk again. This time, he hid and watched the giant bring out a hen that laid golden eggs on command. When the giant dozed off, Jack grabbed the hen and made his escape. Now, they were not just comfortable, they were rich. Still something called Jack back to the sky. On his third trip, he hid and saw the giant's most prized possession, a magical golden harp that played beautiful music all by itself. As soon as the giant was asleep, Jack crept out and grabbed the harp. But this time the harp cried out, "Master! Master! A thief!" The giant woke up with a roar and saw Jack running away with his harp. He chased after him, his giant footsteps shaking the very ground. Jack scrambled down the beanstalk with the giant close behind. "Mother, mother, bring the axe," yelled as he neared the bottom. His mother, seeing the giant descending, quickly brought him the axe. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Jack started chopping at the beanstalk with all his might. Chop, chop, chop. The thick stalk began to creak and groan. With one final swing, the beanstalk snapped and came crashing down, bringing the giant with it. And that was the end of the giant. Jack and his mother lived happily ever after with their hen that laid golden eggs and their magical singing harp. Jack's courage and cleverness had turned a handful of beans into a life of fortune, proving that even when things seem hopeless, a little bravery can lead to the greatest adventures. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more classic tales. See you next time.